Okay, hello, good evening, and good morning, and good afternoon to other friends who are not in Taiwan. And welcome to this online talk. And thank you for joining us tonight. And I'm Yi-Fen, the moderator for this online talk. And today, this is the second session for the Bamboo Curtain Studio, the 2020 Latin America Initial Project. Outreach Project, the Imaginary Land, Convergence, Taiwan, and Latin America. And this project is under the support of Minister of Culture of Taiwan. And right now we are broadcasting at the Taipei Artist Village in Taipei, Taiwan. And online, we also have our two speakers with us. The one is Camilla Campos, who is now in Brazil. Camilla, please say hi. And another one is Yasmine. She's now in Amsterdam. Yay! And so before we start, first I would like to thank the Bamboo Curtain Studio and the Taipei Artist Village for organizing this event. And right now we have many staff in this room with me to coordinate all the technical problems, and I thank you for all the efforts for making this happen. And I will also like to invite the friends who are already online. Maybe you can share this talk to your friends who are interested, and so we can have more audience to join. And also, I would like to invite you to leave your comment anytime during this live stream. If you have any question, just leave in the comment. You don't have to wait until the final part, so we can have time to collect and summarize all the questions. And later we can respond in the Q&A session in a more systematic way. Okay, so right now, I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Yi-Fen Jan. I am the moderator tonight. And right now, I am the Deputy Director of Zhishan Cultural and Ecological Garden. It's a place more like a local natural history museum in Taipei. And before, I have worked in Guandu Nature Park. It's also another like wetland reserve environmental learning center for many years, and also I participated in an environmental art project called the Guandu International Nature Art Festival. And I have also been the curator for during the 2015 and 2018. And that brings us to the topic for this session, because the topic for this session tonight is the environmental art as a catalyst for sustainability. So we have the two speakers for tonight. Camilla is the director of the international artistic residency called the CAPACETE. It's actually the oldest artistic cultural exchange program in Brazil. And she's going to introduce the activities and all the programs they are working on, and also the partnership with the Modern Art Museum in Rio de Janeiro starts this year. So she lives and working in Latin America context, and she will also share her experiences as an artist, as a teacher, and the director of this artist residency. And the second speaker is Yasmine, and Yasmine is the founder of an organization called the Green Art Lab Alliance, or we can call it GALA. And this is a network of 45 cultural organizations in Europe, Latin America, and Asia. And that is in pursuit of social and environmental justice. And she will speak about some specific art projects in Latin America, including several pioneer organizations in Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Mexico, and that using art as a catalyst for sustainability that are part of the Green Art Lab Alliance. And Yasmine and Camilla, they both actually know each other very well because Yasmine has just finished her residency not too long ago in Latin America, and she just returned to the Europe. So she has also been to Taiwan for several times and doing her research, so she can give us a more broad perspective, comparison of different environmental art projects. Okay, so in recent years in Taiwan, we can also see there are more and more art festivals happening in Taiwan regarding the public art, the land art, or more like the community-based art. And most of them are organized or funded by the public sectors for different purposes, such as promoting the tourism or revitalize a local place. And it's a very popular in Taiwan right now. We say it in Mandarin called 地方创生, so place making is a very popular things in Taiwan. So despite this big festival, we also have some local-based, community-based local projects, such as a famous example is the Chen environmental art project. It's a very community-based project, very grassroots, and focus on the community members' self-identity to their hometown, and maybe try to use art to bring a new way to guide the visitor to see their hometown in a different light. So among this project happening in Taiwan, different practices are adopted to make responses to different issues related to the environmental or some cultural issues, such as we explore the human and the nature relationship. So we also have, we can find also many projects are discussing about using materials which is more eco-friendly to the environment. So there are lots of issues and the way to curating environmental art project. So that's why we are very excited to invite the two speakers to share some examples in Latin America and how they use the art to engage the public or to raise the awareness about some issues related to environment. So I don't want to take too much time, so I would like to invite Camilla first to share her talk. So Camilla.
Hello, good night, good afternoon, and good morning for everyone that hearing us here today. First of all, Yi-Fen, I want to thank you so much for this invitation. I'd like to thank all the Bamboo Curtain team, especially Iris, which just started talking about it, and also Yasmine, which also somehow introduced us last year. So I'm really happy of being here, and I believe that this kind of talk and the discussion, not just around the subject, but also the way we are doing it, which means we are doing it straight. We are doing like Taiwan, Latin America, right now, Taiwan, Brazil, Netherlands. Yasmine has also other kind of experiences in Latin America. So we are talking like straight ahead, which is also, at least for me, the first point. I will present CAPACETE. I will talk a little bit about Latin America. I will talk a little bit about the partnership with the Museum of Modern Art. But I would like to start, not with the images itself, but I would like to start with, how can I say, a little bit of background, because I believe that would be nice to start talking about some words and the view that we have upon this. History, environmental thematic, sustainability. Those words, we are in different parts of the globe, and those words for each of our practices has different power, a different meaning itself. So I'll start for that because I cannot say for Latin America as a whole, but I can say a little bit about Brazil. I can tell you a little bit about my specific context, which is Rio de Janeiro, Minas Gerais, which is São Paulo, which is the southwest of Brazil. Because Brazil, it's a really big country. So we have different geopolitical systems operating over the country, as a whole. So, but what can I say in general is that we pass through a colonial period, which has still today, special and direct impacts in the way that we not just see the world, but in the way that we experience the world as well. So when we are talking about, and when we come like in art, in the art system with the idea of art itself, so with the idea of art and environmental states, and topics, etc., we need somehow, to access our memories. I was talking about the relationship of history and the meanings of some words, how we differently reach and experience those words concerning also the economic systems that we've been living for the past, at least for us, 500 years. So what I'm telling here is that we are accessing those words through some kind of trauma. We're accessing those words for some kind of violence, and we still need to check and to take a look to our bodies and to the system, the society, sorry, I take out the phone again. And we need somehow to access the relationship among us, because we have been passing through a different way, not just to relate to each other as persons, but also the way we mediate the relationship between our bodies, our practices, and the territory. I can say territory because it's a geopolitical system, but I can also say the land, I can also say earth, and then I will really fast access the idea of exploitation, the idea of exploitation of the earth itself, and also of the work and labor, etc. So in our context, those words and those persons and those meanings, they are not separated, they are together. So we need when we talk about sustainability, we need to discuss our language, for instance. We need to mediate and to understand that we are talking through a language which we have never choose to talk through this tool as a tool, and which we access. It's the access that we have to this language, which is Portuguese. It's from Portugal. So it's not from Brazil. It's not, it's not connected to the territory. It's not connected to the territory as well, the spiritual system to talk with the forest. It's not connected to the territory. The words that I can talk and access the plants, because they have the medicine, they have the power of healing. So when we are talking about those issues of in those terms, and then I go a little bit through the art practices that we try to support and we are trying to dialogue with, is exactly on those points a little bit that I brought here. Which means that CAPACETE is a place that it's an art residency, so we receive different artists from all over the world. In terms of the sustainability of our system as well, we have been for the past years paying attention a lot in Latin America and also in a Brazilian context because in this sense, we know that the mobility in the world, in terms of body, who can, travel, who have support to travel, who can actually go here and there to take time and to think about art, we know that it's not equal in the globe system. So in the past years, we have been also trying to manage in our way also with a system in which we can make it more even, which is not, of course, we cannot be like the judge of the world, and and also we don't have power to make it happen like this, but we are trying to be conscious and in this criteria as well, in terms of development of the and development, yes, of our ability, to read the world in another epistemological way, which is more connected with Latin America itself and Brazil itself and ourselves and our history, which means we are trying to construct and to build actually a structure which will respond our social and economic and political system, which is not so. It's not the art world itself as we can read on Argan or which is the name of the other which is not in the Argan book of art history or Gombrich art history book, So in this way, we are trying to. So for me, for us, in a certain way, when we talk about the subject, and for me, that's why also it's important to be here with you, because then me as a Brazilian Black woman, I can talk straight, to a Taiwanese artist or curator, and I can tell you who I am. And I don't need a book, or I don't need a mediation of anyone telling me who I am to you and telling me who you are to me. So that's really important, to that's why for me at least it's also important. And it's also part of an idea of sustainability of ourselves. Because then when we not break, but when we try to reach those structure points of the society, which means we're passing through a gender issue, we're passing through race issue, we are passing through class issue. So when we are going through those points inside the art system as well, we are already somehow talking about a different world and a new world in which, for sure, we will maintain and sustain and think about our forests, the system of exploitation of the earth exploitation, because we have been doing this for the past, I don't know, maybe 10,000 years before, even before the capitalism system and I don't know, in the system that we live right now. So we know how to do it. All of us. Yasmine knows, everyone knows. We already do. We already did it. I think I have already contextualized a little bit and framework somehow. Now I want to present to you specifically. So this is a little bit a really general context of Brazil in terms of history, and also in terms of what do we want to access. We do want to access with our practices. And of course, I'm not alone. I must tell you, CAPACETE is not just me. CAPACETE is also Helmut Batista, which is the founder. Is also Residencies, which is our producer. It's also now Morani, which is my assistant. It's also all the artists that are right now with us at the residency. Is also the ex-residents, which is include Yasmine, and the future residents, which also includes Yi-Fen and Iris. So CAPACETE is part of this, it is actually live network, which will never stop actually to be connected, because that's how I have been experiencing, and actually it's how it is. So we are connecting through our practices. We are connecting through the experience that we have together at the residencies. We are connecting through the dialogue. We develop together the ideas we develop together, the learning, the knowledge, the books we have reading together. So in our seminars. So that's what CAPACETE is, if I can start already talking about it. I will share my screen with you. Well, that's just it's a future. Sorry, not future, sorry. It is our space. It used to be, because now we are at the museum, and actually now we are at home. So it used to be our get together in CAPACETE cuisine, in our kitchen. So here's a little bit about our history. I think Ife gave us a spoiler already. We are the oldest residency of Latin America. I've been working at CAPACETE for the past 4 years. I have been also resident in 2016. That's how my relationship with CAPACETE actually started. So I will just pass through all the images. Here is our partnerships with different. I need to add bamboo curtains here now, in this slide. My mistake. Here a little bit our numbers. We had already like almost 500 artists in residency from 25 different countries. We have here you can see a little bit in this picture, we have different talks, and for the past 5 years, we started to do something connected with our neighborhood and our city as well. As you might know, being a residency that has 23 years, 22, almost 23, it's totally different passing through the years. Being a art residency 20 years ago was something, 15 years ago was something, because also the system of art was like projecting some ideas of residency back then. And nowadays, we know that art residency is almost already as, we have different art residencies, but we also know that nowadays, art residencies are also a way to connect the artists, not just the artists that are coming with the context of the city, but also we are trying to do the other way around, which means the artists that come also presenting themselves and their context to our artists, the artists from the city itself. I would say our, but I'm not owner of anyone, sorry. That's what we do at CAPACETE. We have once a week for the past 5 years a public talk, in which our guests and people that also passing through the ex-residents, people that also come for other kind of meetings at the city and workshops at the city, they also pass through, and we are very happy and glad to connect them with the residents, to present each other, to maintain and sustain this network, which is based and building through and by people. So that's why we have just images of persons in almost all of our pictures. CAPACETE, that's important to highlight. CAPACETE is a residency. We don't have a studio for practice. So it's also important to tell you that's a more discursive residency. It's for research. research itself. So we are not presenting artworks by the end of the residence. We don't also have this kind of, we expect somehow, of course, some exchange, but more in this discursive way and not for the object. So the space that we have is a kitchen. The space that we have is it's many and different rooms. It's a library. So what we do, and it changes a lot. The furniture changes a lot, and depending on the artists that are together in a specific moment of the residency, the place change completely. So it is the same, but it's also never the same. This also the capacity of changing, with the persons that are coming and going. It's also something that it's really organic and alive. So for me, it's really interesting. That's also why I got in love with this place somehow, with the possibility of talk and also of act. So we can build actually something, because things are not fixed. In a sense that I need to all the time to respond upon a system or institution that can never hear me. So I can be this place as well, and the people that are going there can also be this place. So going back again a little bit about the topics that I brought at the beginning, that's why also I believe that sustainability is, for this context specifically, it's also about here the persons that are already there, that are talking the way that they think about territory, the way that they think about health, the way that they think about about food, the way that, so it's not about what I eat, but it's also, from where it comes. It's also the way so what can we do together? There's also a dimension of collective. There's also a collective dimension, which is also important, independent if your work is individual or not. I'm not talking about the practice itself, but I'm talking about the way that you are positioning yourself into the world. That's a little bit, not a little bit, I think that's everything, no, Yasmine, that we talk about in CAPACETE. It's about also how you are seeing it, and you're acting in your art and also in your life. It is connected. We cannot separate that. The separation is totally a modernity topic. The idea of separability is an idea of separability, brought in 19th century in our art system, in which we truly believe that our heads were separate from our bodies. So we could be persons that just think, and we totally forget that we have a body, that the body is connected to the earth, that the body is stand in a ground, and this ground and this earth, above my feet, they can grow my food and they can bring my objects. And this also, it's where I connect to myself spiritually to sustain my body, not just with food, not just with objects and iPhones or clothes, but also with a life movement, and a life spirit with joy, etc., etc. So that's a little bit also how I understand and I see the practice of CAPACETE, and how we are related and talking with the art system, So here are some activities that we are developing right now, and then I will bring the partnership that we have with the Museum of Modern Art right now. So at the beginning of the year, a little bit before the pandemic situation, we start to talk with the Museum of Modern Art of Rio de Janeiro, which is an iconic museum for the country. But somehow it was it was not talking at all. I would say it already was, because I've been part of this changing inside the museum. So at the beginning of the year, we have been, CAPACETE have been invited to be together in this remodelation of the museum, in terms of, which means talk about what modernity is for us, what modernity means to Brazil, what this building means to the city, what art is. So big topics, which just a big museum can also talk through, with the population itself. But so we were invited to be part of this talk, and we accepted. And of course, it's important to this big museum right now to have such organic and such organic group, which can also bring and talk specifically about art, specifically and deep, because our talks, in a certain way, we work in a very specific part of the art system. We are talking about art in a sense that we are connected with people around, but we have this kind of responsibility of also, I would say school. I don't like too much about the school idea, but it's about learning. It's about learning. So we are talking about learning, learning art and reviewing, building, exchanging, etc., etc. So it's really important to the museum. We can see to have, a group of people that are talking and thinking deeply about art and the contemporary framework. So we accept, and for us, of course, is also really interesting because we are also engaged in the topics of our society, and it's really important to CAPACETE to be involved with people from Rio de Janeiro, from Latin America. We accept because we also understand that we need to be engaged on that task, and this big task as well of thinking together about a museum. So for the next 2 years, we are going to be together with this big art apparatus, which is a museum. And we are developing those activities. So we are going to offer the artistic residencies, a research program, which is really also a little bit different from what we have been doing. It's a new arm of our activities right now, which is to support just researchers. So because then when we make the open call, we welcome artists, curators, thinkers, writers, so different parts of art, mainly visual arts, of course, but we are open to talk and to be connected with other culture agents. And right now we had this open call, and we will start next Tuesday this research program just for research. And we are also going to, this year, we will continue with our seminars and tutorial practices, which is more focused on the development of individual practices, but still thinking the individual practices and the persons as a group that will talk, and we selected to talk about those different topics and issues that are urgent right now in our society, and specifically in Brazilian society. So we have people talking about political issues, we have people talking about marriage as an institution, we have people talking about gender, we do have people talking about inequality in our society, specifically in the context of Rio de Janeiro. So we have different topics of art in the sense. We have people talking about painting as well. So just for you to know that we are supporting different, addressing different ways of knowledge, but all of them with a more conscious and social, and critical background. And we also have this also new topic in a specific context of the museum, which is the historical exhibitions. We are happy, really happy to invite ex-residents because, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are not an exhibition space. So, but inside the museum, we managed to have a room to exhibit some projects that have been developed at CAPACETE and never showed in Brazil. So we are invited, and because the international artists, they also go back to their homeland and they have the exhibition there. We go, they send also books. We have this exchange, but for the next 2 years, we are glad to invite back the residents to show their projects that they have been developed with us here in Rio de Janeiro. So I'm almost at the end, and to finish, I want to show you a little bit about our structure. We have a general direction of Helmut Batista, which is our founder, which I have mentioned, me, Morani, and Valdinar. We have an executive board with artists, collectors, and curators, and we have an artistic board with artists also and professors and scholars and theorists. So just for you to have a final look, in terms of the names, and we are a place building for and by persons. So that's how we got to be connected to each other, and also with the time that we are living right now. Thank you very much,
Camilla, for your amazing talk. And I really like how you focus a lot on, from the beginning, not just from a perspective of an institution, but talk more about the context of individual as a human being and what we are, how we see ourselves and how we knowing ourselves and trying to relate it to the environment or the world around us. And also later you mentioned about the project you are now working in partnership with the museum. So I already have some questions later, but right now I would like to invite Yasmine to give her talk first, and later we can have a Q&A session. So before Yasmine start, I would like to remind all the audience again, if you have any question, you're welcome to leave in the comment section so we can collect this question later. Okay, so Yasmine, are you ready?
Well, I'm so happy to be part of this, because for me it's really two parts of the world that are very dear to me that are colliding. And indeed, having spent time in Taiwan and having come back from Brazil in February, I think it's really, I'm super excited to see these connections happening and to see lots of familiar faces. So I want to thank you all for having me. I'm also very happy that Camilla started with this context, because I think it's really, you cannot kind of see Brazil or even in the broader perspective Latin America without this, the colonial history issue, the language, the social, the political, the environmental. For me, this was also, very, my time at CAPACETE has been literally life-changing. So I think for anyone, Taiwanese curators, artists, planning to do a residency, or I would absolutely, totally recommend it. And also, be aware that it's going to be a very intense and possibly life-changing experience. So what I will do today is tell a little bit more about some of the arts organizations the other art organizations in Latin America that I've been working with in the capacity of GALA, the Alliance. Those are all connections that have also been possible because of my time with CAPACETE, because of my time in Brazil. So I'm also super grateful for that. And I just wanted to start with showing some faces of the people, because we had our Latin America General Assembly 2 weeks ago, and on this screen we see people from Chile, from Brazil, from Panama, from Mexico, from Colombia, from Ecuador. So to also get a feeling of the faces behind it. And I wanted to start with a little quote that I took from the book Mushroom at the End of the World, which I think explains the situation, especially where we're heading kind of globally in terms of the pandemic, and something that also I felt was very present in Latin America. So we hear about precarity in the news every day. People lose their jobs or are angry because they never had them. Gorillas and river porpoises hover at the edge of extinction. Rising seas swamp whole Pacific islands. But most of the time, we imagine such precarity to be an exception to how the world works. It's what drops out of the system. But what if, as I'm suggesting, precarity is the condition of our time? Or to put it another way, what if our time is ripe for sensing precarity? What if precarity, determinacy, and what we imagine as trivial are at the center of the systematicity we seek? I think this is also like a cry, or like an outcry for more strategic collaboration and support of each other. So really realizing with times ahead, in the light of climate change and collapse of biodiversity and ecosystems, that we're going to need each other more and more, and that's why we should be more like my with this image, where we can redistribute resources in more equal and social ways. Then I'll also just read the beginning of this paragraph, because this is my very personal experience of being in Brazil, the first month. So, the importance of indigenous knowledge of the natural world became more and more clear to me, parallel with the realization of how political regimes, particularly in South America, were structurally undervaluing these communities and cosmologies. Within a few months in Brazil, I started to understand the word urgency. In August, I attended a residency program, Lab Verde, in the Amazon during the time when the rainforest was on fire. It rained thick drops of black water all the way in Sao Paulo because of the smoke. In September, a huge oil spill was polluting over 2,250 kilometers of the coastline in the northeast. Brazilian researcher Alexis Minopoulos told me the deafening silence of a monoculture, a complete lack of insects and birds due to agrotoxics, ones that Europe sells to Brazil. At times I felt dirty with the privileges that were given to me because of the color of my skin. I saw how entangled the cultural sector is with the funding from the fossil fuel and other mining industries. Everything was so complex, from the daily micro to the political macro. It was dazzling. The rest I'm gonna skip for the moment, for the time. So I just want to whiz through a couple of most of them are artist residency or art spaces that are, I think, doing super pioneering work when it comes to environmental issues, and working really grassroots with the communities, sharing knowledge with each other, but also that are places that are open to connecting with you and who would want to go to, whichever country that there is already connections there for you. So it's also an invitation to, to see what's kind of out there. So Estudio Noboso is a platform for art, ecology, and society in Panama. It's founded by Ella Spalding, and yeah, they receive artists. They work a lot with scientists. Panama is one of the most biodiverse places, I think, in the world, even, or definitely in the region. And it's a great place to go to. I'm just going to be very short about these. We have 15 of these initiatives, so I'm just going to whiz through them a little bit. And if you want some more information about either of them later, then you can contact me, and I also can connect you with the people who are running some of these organizations. Flora is quite a famous residency program, Arsenatura in Bogota, in Colombia. They work both very locally, nationally, also internationally. Like CAPACETE, they also have a lot of international artists, but also local artists. So this is very important to, to foster these collaborations from people with different backgrounds. And their focus has always been kind of on nature and working with environments, but also are very interested in this idea of pedagogy. So different ways of learning, less traditional ways of, exchanging knowledge in the form of reading groups, like critical readings of things. Goethe Institute is one of the partners in Rio because they work across a wide range of regions in Latin America. They have, they are very keen also to connect people and also do different projects themselves. Hawapi is an organization they're based in Peru, but they actually do kind of expeditions to different places that, have a complicated history, whether that's politically, environmentally, socially, and they spend, a longer amount of time. It could be, up to, 2 weeks, for instance, to really be in that place, build things, do interviews, and later on, they make publications. They keep on coming back to these places to keep the relationships with the community, and so that's really more like being part of a. It's usually not in cities, so it will involve like camping, hiking, being in the mountains in Peru. Kiosco has also been around since 2007, if I'm correct. A program in Bolivia, in Santa Cruz, and as you see, it's also more like maybe comparable to Flora or CAPACETE, where you are in the city and have meetings and reading groups or seminars or whatever kind of knowledge sharing sessions with the other artists in residence. So it will be again like a mix of local artists as well as international. So they're quite an international program. La Verde is a program that I mentioned in the little paragraph that I read. It's funny, it's exactly 1 year ago that I was there, like this day. It's quite crazy. It's a 2-week research program where you really go into the forest. You learn about different indigenous cosmologies, Yanomami people, different types of groups, but mostly you learn about the different types of landscape that the forest holds. So indeed, it will be different tracks that you do. The program is a collaboration with the INPA, which is the Institute for National Amazonian Research. So you get to learn about dendrochronology, for instance, which is to learn the age of trees, or about we had so many lectures. If you are also interested in kind of art and science collaborations and really, this immersion in the forest, this was a really incredible program. And of course, it's their kind of headquarters, let's say, is in Manaus, where at the moment there's still like Bahia too, actually, but the pandemic is like raging, and so they're working on a lot of campaigns, also raising awareness of where with the source of deforestation, so timber industries, but also soy for cattle, so the meat industry, where a lot of these products end up. So a lot of it goes to the US and to China and also to Brazil. So they are very active in making these alliances to raise awareness that we are all responsible for this deforestation, and it's not just cattle ranchers taking land, but also us buying products that contribute to this. Then Fundación Maradento is an organization in Chile. Their office is in Santiago, but actually they are the stewards of a forest, called in the south of Chile. And the residency program is actually where kind of artists and scientists can visit this forest to do research together, to do projects together, and they are very interested also in how we think about conservation of nature. So how can we form also strategic alliances to make the surface of protected area bigger. One of their big kind of research projects is about the Araucania tree, which is in English we call it the monkey puzzle tree. This tree, which is not this one you see on the image, but which is a symbol of Chile, which is very important in the Mapuche culture. So they also work with the Mapuche society and really try to foster these collaborations for people to learn more also about the Mapuche culture and other indigenous cultures in Chile. Museo del Hongo is also in Chile, but they're also more of a nomadic platform. What is quite exciting about them is that it's like a group of young artists, performers, and they're obsessed with mushrooms. But not only like eating mushrooms, but also like the way how mushrooms work, so the mycelium, the qualities of mushrooms as biomaterials. And so they organize different performances, but also fashion shows and all kinds of crazy art events that are always somehow related to mushrooms, the spores of mushrooms, the mycelium of mushrooms, and like a super exciting group of artists. No Lugar is an initiative residency program in Ecuador, Quito. It's very similar that they, in a way, like with Hawaii, that they also do a lot of treks and go out into nature with the artists to organize programs there. But they also have like an art space in the city for exhibitions. Platoedro is a space in Colombia. They are, what I love about Platoedro is that they're so embedded in the local community. So a lot of kids come there to do workshops, to, and learn about plants, but also about hacking or using computers, and really active at the moment. They're also have been super busy actually. Now with the pandemic, making food for the community. So it's really like a place that everyone knows, and it's very accessible to go to, and quite connected internationally too. Sakatar is a residency program on Itaparica Island in Bahia, so the northeast of Brazil. It's also, a place, a residency program, a place that you could apply for and spend time there. At the moment, I just had a conversation with them yesterday. At the moment, also because of the pandemic that's raging around there, they are completely closed. And they've been, they're now doing some renovations. And one of the things that they hope to be picking up again, and something that they've been doing also in the past, is really working with the Atlantic forest, so doing reforestation and raising awareness about this important ecosystem. Then very quickly, Terremoto magazine. It's an art magazine, and they're based in Mexico. They write about what's happening in Latin America and about the art scene. And the reason why I also wanted to mention them is that at the moment they're actually preparing an issue also connecting with Asia for the first time. So, there could be some interesting relationships there to forge for in the future. You might think like, oh my God, so many different organizations. How are they all working together? I'll briefly explain that in a second. Valley of the Possible is also an organization in the south of Chile. This was an exercise that we were doing with the architecture students of the university in Temuco. It's a program, or they call it actually like a refuge for artists, to really reconnect with nature, to spend time in the valley, which is an incredible area where there's hot springs. Also, it is Mapuche land, so it's also really to raise awareness. I mean, Camilla mentioned it about territories and what is actually the connection with the land and what is the history of the land. So not only from an environmental point of view, but also like a cultural point of view. So in a way, with it, as Valley of the Possible, you're really exploring or understanding rather the valley in all its complexities. Both the mycelium in the ground, but also the history, the community. So it's really kind of looking at a specific geographical location, which is also in the south, so the Chilean Andes. Amazing place, and quite a young residency actually. They only started 1 year ago. Then the last one for now is Arte Sumapaz, which is in Colombia, in the Sumapaz region, so in the mountains. Also a reasonably young residency, very interdisciplinary, so not only visual arts, but also dance and music. Yeah, all the creative forms that you can think of. The reason why there's also, a few younger residents in part of this is also because there is really a need for people to make this connection with other places. I think what I understand from the partner, it's very hard to survive as a residency program. Actually, because funding structures are very different than from Taiwan or from Europe. So this precarity also that I mentioned in the beginning applies to a lot of these places. So it means it also means, I'm telling maybe now about these places, but it could as well be that in 1 year time, some of them don't exist anymore. So this is also a reality that coming to a place, I think you have to be really aware of, that some are very understaffed, or it's about managing expectations also. How am I for time? Let me see, because I can talk so much about these things. I still have a little bit. No, yeah. So maybe what would be nice to 5 more minutes, great. Maybe what would be nice to explain is kind of how we work with each other, because of course it's a huge continent. So the distances are massive. So what we're doing at the moment is that we have organized ourselves in 10 working groups that are all topics that different organizations are working with. So one of the group is, for instance, reforestation and biodiversity. So that would be the organization in Manaus, in the Amazon, but also in the south of Chile, and also in Bahia, and so different groups, they kind of come together in smaller groups to then kind of discuss strategies or plans, or do a funding application together, or to just share resources and research with each other. Other groups, for instance, community strategies. So that would be more an organization like Plato, for instance. But here we also, in the working groups, we also make the connection with the other continents. So in the community strategies group, it's Colombia, but it's also Indonesia. And actually, Bamboo Curtain Studio is also in this group. So it's really, based on sharing this knowledge with each other, so we can amplify our voice, reach more people, we can do more with less resources. A group that at the moment we've been having a few meetings, like we just like this, like Zoom meetings, online meetings, is one which might also be relevant for all of you to know, is one on online education on art and ecology in Latin America, but also from a Latin American perspective. So to be able to reach also people more in kind of rural areas, for instance, but also in continued lockdown. We don't know what the future is going to look like. So to kind of anticipate that maybe it might be the case that we need to connect longer also in the future through these digital platforms. So we have a group of, I think, 5 of the Latin American partners, and we are developing a module that contains exercises that people can do kind of within their community, and understanding your own territories and using senses. So definitely like an offline element to it, which I think will continue to be really important. But then at the same time, having these kind of curatorial assessments more, so one-on-one conversations about your artistic practice, and then there is a final element to it, which is really capacity building. So also like improving skills in writing applications, for instance, and making your portfolio and talking about your work, because one thing that we also experience is like an imbalance in who is accessing these opportunities in the field of art and ecology. Because there are a lot of opportunities, scholarships, residencies, grants, they are all out there. But it is a matter of not only finding them, but also they come with a specific type of language or aesthetics, maybe even almost. So to kind of equalize that imbalance in who is accessing these opportunities, there's also this element of capacity building. And maybe at the moment I will leave it at that, so we have some time also more kind of conversation rather than we just blah, 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 blah.
So thank you, Yasmine. I am very impressed to see how diverse these different programs, and each of them have their very clear objective, and also they have do a lot to relate it to different group of people, such as the scientists and the artists and the public. So right now we are going to the QA session. We already collect some questions online. And so first I will, there's a question, there are two questions very similar for Camilla. It's about, of course, we are now all facing the biggest challenge is the COVID-19 situation globally. So for your program, your residency has a lot of interaction with international groups or the international artists. But at this moment, I believe you are also facing some challenging of maybe you have to cancel or change your program. So maybe you can tell us more about how the CAPACETE are dealing with the situation, and maybe give us your feedback or a reflection about the international residency, what it will become, because right now maybe the international travel or the international mobility may not be possible. So this is the first question for Camilla. And for Yasmine, there's a question about the cooperation. One is how, because you have to do a lot of research among the different environmental art initiatives among different regions, such as Latin America, and of course Taiwan and Europe. So maybe you can give us some suggestion or comparison about the differences or similarity between this project, and maybe give us some suggestion for the future cooperation possibility between Taiwan and Latin America. What do you think is the most or the best way to cooperate between these two places? Yeah.
I can answer those questions in two ways. First of all, in a practical way, because I believe that people love also to know what you do like this every day in a practical decisions. So what have happened is that in March, when we start the lockdowns and the postponement of a lot of activities, social activities, what happened back then, I contact all the residents and that's supposed to come to Rio this year, and we postponed to September, which means next Tuesday. So what happened back then was to take that decision. We postponed all the residencies. And but then in the end of June, maybe like the middle of June, we realized that could not be possible to be open again in September. So we postponed to March next year. So that's our practical calendar right now for the international residencies. That's how we've been managing. And we did an open call. We also understood and we saw that in terms of support of our community, it would be really important also to give a grant and also to talk with the artists that were around us, specifically in Rio de Janeiro, and could not even keep going on working because of the context of pandemic. So because they have different agendas, a lot of things change, we all know about it. So we launched this program that we are doing right now, just for artists that live at Rio de Janeiro and Rio de Janeiro state, because we have the city, and also, just for you to know, we have also a state with small cities around. So people that can come and go at the same day, let's say. Of course, we are not having presidential activities every day. We are not doing this. And we have also an agenda that just in October, we are going to see each other in person. Because in the museum context, we're developing a way to being together. So in our agenda in October, we are going to be present, again, and maybe have our meetings there. So that's how we are proceeding right now with the residents. And then the other way that I can also answer this question, that I believe that's also issues that we are talking not just within CAPACETE, but also with other residencies in Brazil and in the world. Last week, we had a talk. I had a talk also in the context of Triangle Network, which is also residencies and independent art space all over the world. And we are talking exactly about this. The issue, my answer could be that direction to think together. We are thinking together how to build another kind of practices once the one that we had before were based in the mobility. So, because before that, it was already about mobility, who can come and go. But now, we are talking about a geopolitical system, which means which passport can come and go. And now it's what kind of body can come and go. We still we somehow superpose not just two, but many, but I would say there's two issues. One is the passport, because it's still valid, this kind of position. And the second one is what kind of body policies your country is now deciding, and which will, of course, come together with your passport and make it possible or not to come and go, not just in terms of countering boundaries, but also in terms of states and cities and also neighborhoods, because that was what we face in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. We have the policies of parties inside our neighborhoods. So in terms of art residencies that has as their base the idea of moving here and there and thinking about context, etc. I don't believe that the virtual connection will be enough for that discussion. We cannot just change. We need to think further a little bit. And that answer I do not have right now. We are talking about it, but I have those clues that I'm sharing.
Further for the question, and the stop of all the program maybe have some influence for your funding, for example. And so how about, do you think the international cooperation can help each other during this kind of situation in a more practical way? Because such as this project, at first, original plan was to have physical exchange. Actually, you should be here according to the original plan. But now, maybe if we can have a new way thinking of this kind of funding system to help each other during this difficult time. So maybe you have some thoughts about this.
Yes, the funding system is really important. But and I don't believe that I'm capable to start explaining you how we deal with that, because we have at the same time that we have we can reach money from different countries and also like share, the system of reaching and sharing, it's so complicated in a certain level that we operate here, because we really try to share, what we can. And what we are facing now is that different also partners that we have in terms of, because then we have the partners that are the art spaces, and we have the partners that are the institutions that are founding us. And we have the partners, because we also consider partners, the persons and artists that are together, in terms of content and talking, and giving and giving them the food for the system. So all of us, we are partners in this, in the system. So in terms of founding the big institutions, of course, they can maintain or somehow just that's why it's really difficult to explain, because we have different also situations. Some institutions continue paying us, independent if the artists are coming or not. So for this year, they pay, but then for next year, we don't know yet. Some of them stop payment right now. And they say they will maybe talk next year. So then for some of institutions, we have contracts, and then we are reviewing that. For the other ones, maybe we don't. But then we can reformulate the partnership, and they consider as possible. So that's why I'm telling you that's really complex, because we have really many different institutions working together, and each one of them decided to operate in a different moment right now, because they also have their foundings being managed in a different way. But what I can tell you, and I'm seeing for real, is that people are seeing that they are talking to other people, not just institution. They are seeing that there is an artist that plan to come to Rio. There's an artist that plan to, and they are trying to maintain somehow. We are really trying to do it. And we are also seeing people that already had nothing before, and they still have nothing. That's the complexity also of the network that we have. We have different people positioned in different situation of this constellation. And as much as we can, we are really trying to pay attention in a sensitive way to all of those agents.
Okay, thanks. And for Yasmine, about the cooperation, maybe between Taiwan or Latin America. And also, I forgot to mention another kind of a cooperation, since you have introduced us a lot of projects between the art and the science. So how to foster the cooperation between the different interdisciplinary, such as the art and science?
I think both are huge questions also. I think it maybe is nice to start just with the collaboration, and it really needs to come, I think, from a point of genuine care and interest, because these relationships are only still going because it's been a continuous investment, let's say. So with GALA, for instance, it's already been since 2012. With Bamboo Curtain Studio, the connection has even been longer, and now it's still with trans artists. So it's really also much more than a professional collaboration in a way. Like you become friends, you become allies, you care about what's happening in another country or with someone else's life and organization. So I think it only lasts if your interest is sincere. and if you're willing to make a real effort, because actually, even coming for a very short amount of time, I think even a month or 2 months or 3 months is short. So it starts. You start maybe understanding a tiny little bit of the context, maybe only after half a year, and then that's like just scratching the surface, basically. So it becomes also more interesting the longer you are somewhere, and I think the same applied also in Taiwan, but also in Brazil and kind of wherever. So this continuous investment, I think, is kind of key to a good collaboration. And I guess the same applies for like an art-science collaboration, because especially for scientists, like the pace of working or the focus on a research document or like a concrete outcome is very different. So they need to really be interested in this artist, because for them it will never be clear what they're going to get from it. What is their gain? So if you embark on a collaboration because you want to get something from it, if you want, you already have in mind what you need from it, it's not going to work. So this kind of openness about what you're expecting from it is I think key to the success of a collaboration like that. But that also means, just a tiny little example, like I have been taking Portuguese classes when I was in Brazil, and the moment you start speaking the language even a little bit, your world becomes so much bigger, and then it becomes so much more interesting, and the relationship change, because, and then you also want to continue going back, and then you want to, there is more hunger, there is more curiosity, there's more appetite when you start learning also more. So I think, the sincerity is at the heart of that. The trust is at the heart of that, and it's making a continuous effort. That said, the context couldn't be more different in a way between, well, let me just stay with kind of Brazil, Taiwan for the moment. Also just on a, very simple daily example, I remember leaving the MRT once and forgetting my wallet, and that there was someone kind of running behind me, like, "Oh, miss, where is your wallet?" And everyone's like, "Oh no, she forgot her wallet. Here you are." Well, as in Rio, you have to be much more careful because someone might be after that wallet. So, I think Taiwan is probably one of the safest countries in the world, and Rio can be a really dangerous place also. So, that is also something I think to realize, that you're not in a residency where you are living your life in a different place. You're there every day. You're also alone, and you're also there when you're sad. And then there's also, I think, a lot of interesting not relationships, but I guess subjects, especially also when you're talking about environmental issues. For instance, the building of hydroelectric dams. This is like something that's happening in Brazil a lot. It's happening, well, also in China and Korea, and I think also in Taiwan, which is has a huge impact on the environment, or where your food comes from. The growing of food. So there's a lot of interesting parallels. Or indigenous cultures. I mean, the indigenous people on the east coast of Taiwan. There's a lot of interesting parallels that would just require a lot more research, and I would be very interested in reading that research.
Thanks for all your response, because right now we are running out of time, unfortunately. So we have to end this talk very soon. But I would like to thank you again for giving us the amazing talk. And maybe later we will have more discussion about all the questions and all the possibility for future cooperation. So thanks again. And before we end the live stream, I would like to invite all the friends who are also interested in this topic. We will have our last event on September 27th, and it's an open talk, also happen in Taipei Artist Village. So if you are interested about this event, please just follow the Facebook page of Bamboo Curtain Studio, and we're going to share more about this project. So thank you once again for joining us tonight, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. 谢谢。